Welcome back to this video tutorial with myself, Alan Barnard, with White Hat Solutions, and we are going through how to set up a WordPress installation on an IIS server and get it working on Windows with a working internal SMTP server and an FTP server, and how we can get all this working together and get an actual functioning WordPress server going on IIS. Okay, so we are doing this in AWS, which is my preferred vendor, and we are yesterday we went through how to set up the instance, and we forgot to go through how to set up an Elastic IP. So this is what we did yesterday. We created the Windows instance, opened the ports, and selected the port range that we needed. So we did the security for the security group, and we restricted RDP access to only my local IP address. And I showed you how to do all that yesterday. We also created a key pair when we created the instance as well, which is quite important. We need to keep that, but we forgot to set up the Elastic IP, which we'll do now. Okay, so if we go into over here into the EC2 management console, and you just go and give your instance a name. I've already called it test, and I'm just going to go into Elastic IPs over here underneath network and security, and I'm going to go allocate new address. Yes, allocate, and then go close, and then I'm just going to make sure that this is selected, and I'm going to go to associate, and I should see test when I click in here. Yes, there's test is running, and I'm going to associate it. Now we need to go and access this machine, so we go back into instances, we go and we select the machine, and we go to connect. And I'm going to be changing this password in a second, so I don't mind if you guys see it. So I'm just going to go click password so I can get the password, and we need to browse to the PM file. I've already got it selected there, and we're going to go to decrypt password. Now we've got the password we need, and what we're going to do is we're going to do some password management. I'd like you all to go, and if you don't have a password management system, I'd like you to try and get this one. It's an open source one. I'll show you the basic functionalities in a moment. It's called KeePass, and you can get it from keepass.info. That's KEEPASS.info, and you can get it through SourceForge. I would prefer you guys to use the direct link for the download rather than the SourceForge, which is offered here over here. There we go, direct link. Once it's installed, you'll see something like this, and you're just going to create a new database. And it's going to ask you to create a master password, and make sure you put something really strong here. I'm just going to go, you shouldn't do that. Definitely not only 7 characters, but okay. And just the default should be okay. And you can just delete these example entries out of here, these sample ones. And there's already a category in here for Windows. I'm going to make a new key by clicking on add entry over here, and I'm going to call it test RDP. And I'm going to make a new user, which will I'm going to disable the admin user and replace the admin role on this with this user account. I'm just going to call it test user. and it automatically generates a key, well, a password. So I'm just going to go and click OK. I'm going to save this. Okay, so now that I've got a password which I'm going to use to replace this one, I'm just going to go and download the remote desktop file. Now this is the password I'm going to need for now. We'll go back and get the other password in a second, which we will use to sit on the new user account. Okay, I've already renamed my computer, but I'll show you how to do that. I'm just going to select yes to the security warning. That's just telling me that the connection is encrypted with a certificate that is self-signed. Okay, so we're just going to click in here to go into Server Manager. And if you go into configure this local server, you can go into computer name and just highlight the current computer name and rename it to something else. And you just go over here to change to do that. And you just type in whichever name you want over there, and it will restart. It will tell you you need to restart your computer once you've okayed and applied that. Okay, and once you have restarted it, you're going to come in here again. Now we've got View, Tools, and Manage up at the top over here, and we're just going to go into Tools. We're going to go into Computer Management. We're going to go into Local Users and Groups. Now, I remember I said I was going to create a test user, which I'm going to use just to replace this administrator account. Now, the reason that we're doing that is for security. We don't want people to, well, hackers to know what is the name of our admin user account. That makes it a lot easier for them to actually get into the system if they know that. And I'm just going to go into KeyPass here again, and now I'm going to right click here. I'm going to go copy password. I'm just going to confirm it twice. Now, one of the good things about KeyPass, which I really like, is that if I don't want to know the passwords of my systems, I don't need to, because KeyPass actually just keeps it all in there. It's automatically generated, and I only ever have to see the password if I actually deliberately want to see it. So if I don't want to know what the password is for my own security purposes, I don't need to. I'm just going to give this a description, and I'm just going to say user cannot change password, password never expires. Great. And now I'm just going to go into groups, and I'm going to add that user into the administrator groups. And I'm going to apply that. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to log off the system. And I'm going to have to reconnect. And now I'm going to connect in with that test user account, which is now an administrator account. So here's that RDP file that we downloaded earlier. Can use that again. Okay, so test user, and now if I want to get the password, we just right click over here, we get copy password. And there we go, we are now logged in with the new test administrator account. Let me move this into the screen so you can see it. Okay, so test user is now logging on. Now I just want to test the administrator rights. I'm just going to right click the PowerShell and select run as administrator and make sure it lets me elevate. Yeah, it let me elevate, so that's fine. So that's working now, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to disable that other administrator account, the built-in one. Go into computer management again. And I'm just going to go and right click this one. And I'm going to go into disable. Okay. Okay, now we can see that this is disabled, just like the guest account is. So the only user account that is enabled is a unique username, which is hard to guess, which is what we need. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to update the system. So we're just going to go into Windows Update. Which is in Control Panel. And we need to turn on the automatic updates, and we'll adjust those settings in a minute. But for now, I'm going to just pause this video because we need to carry on. Well, we need to let it update, and I'm not going to sit here and let you watch while it's updating for the next hour or so. So I'll come back to you once this is all updated. We're going to keep on updating. We're only going to install the important updates. Don't install any optional updates. And we'll resume this once this is finished updating. Okay, so we're back now, and let's have a look and see what we have done so far. Okay, we got the Elastic IP, so we can cross this one off. Okay. Well, it hasn't crossed off. There we go. And if we go have a look and see what we were meant to do over here. Okay, so we're given the machine name, well, a host name to the machine, I should say. And we've changed the local admin, and we have tested the new admin, and we have done the Windows updates. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is actually we're doing this a lot faster than I expected. We're going to go and install the roles. Now, we've got everything done. We're up to date with everything that we need. We've got the machine name, we've got a local admin that's not the default admin user, and we got all the updates. So let's go back to the machine, and we're going to start Server Manager, and we're going to go through these roles that we need, which is we're going to start by installing IIS, and then we're going to go and install the FTP SMTP request filtering, and then we will go and we'll stop there and we'll update again. Okay, so we'll just close this off. And we open up the Server Manager. Now we've got a public IP address, which is what we need because we're going to start installing IIS. So we go to Add Roles and Features, go Next, and we're going to go for role-based or feature-based installation. And if you've got a pool of servers, make sure you got the right server. Okay, so let's have a look and see what's over here. So we needed the web server. So we're going to select that. And we're going to go add the IIS Management Console tools as well. And we're going to go next. For now, we don't really need to worry about installing support for .NET or ASP because we're going to be using this as a PHP server. But what we do need in here is the SMTP server, which is what we need for WordPress to actually send mail. Without that, the email functions of WordPress are not going to work on Windows. Okay, and let's just have a quick look. Is there anything else I need in this list? I beg your pardon. That looks good. I'm just going to go next. And then we're going to go and see the role services, which we're going to need to pick out the request filtering, which is already there. Also, let's go and put on IP and domain restrictions. That's going to go and give us a restrictions based on the amount of connections a client is trying to make towards the server, and if it exceeds a certain amount, it's going to go and block the connection. Okay, and the last thing we need out of this list here is the FTP service, and that's how we're going to be setting up the FTP server for later. I don't really like FTP by default. I prefer to use, as a sysadmin, I prefer to use other transport methods that are available, such as the encrypted tunnel that RDP provides, which is an encrypted connection, which is very useful for transferring stuff securely. So we're just going to go next, and we're going to go and install. Okay, so we're installing now. This should only take a few moments. And once this is done, we've pretty much got all the roles and services that we need for a functional WordPress server. We then need to go and install the script engines like PHP, and also we need to install the MySQL. But we're going to go through that together, and it's actually not as hard as you would imagine. we can pretty much, you can just click through it. This is what I'm trying to do right now, is a GUI based tutorial where people can just follow and click through the visual GUI. Usually I would do this via a scripted deployment, because I like to standardize all my web servers so I know what's actually on them. But for the basis of this tutorial, I'd prefer to show you guys through the GUI so that everybody understands. So this is just taking a little bit longer than I was hoping. And let's go and just have a quick look and see what we've done here on our checklist while we're waiting for that. So we've got onto the server manager and we've installed these roles, and right now we've got the roles and dependencies installing. What we're going to do next is we're going to update this, and we're going to give this a we're going to bind its domain name to the default website, and then we're going to go ahead and start securing IIS. Okay, so that's finished, and we can just close this. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're just going to check if Windows has any more updates that we need. Just go check for updates, and I'm going to stop the video here because I don't want you to sit around watching me update this. Once I've confirmed that there's updates or no updates available, I'll come back and we'll continue. Okay, so we're back now, and the updates have installed, and the only thing I've done since the updates is I've just gone and done a best practices analysis of the IIS role, just to make sure that there is no problems with it. And to analyze the best practices, you just go over here on the server manager. Okay, we usually start out in the dashboard. So to get to the best practices for IIS, you just go and you click on IIS over here, and you scroll down. It takes a while just to load. Okay, here's the best practices. Okay, the best practices analyzer is a tool that Microsoft produces, well, maintains to actually let you check your roles to make sure that they're healthy. They have various ones. There's ones for Exchange. There's all different products have a best practices analyzer. Now let's have a look and see. If you have a look here, it says 4, 0 or 4. That's usually the 4 errors that could come up, and we have none of them. That means that we're pretty healthy. And if you want to go and start a scan yourself, you just go to tasks here and scan, and it will tell you how many out of the 4 criterias have failed, and 0 have failed for us, so that means that we're good to go. Now the next thing I want to just check before we continue here is the separate drive that we created in the first tutorial for the data. So let's go have a look and make sure that that's been mounted properly. So we're going in just into tools here and into computer management. We just have to wait for that to open. Okay. And we're just going to go to disk management over here. Okay, and we see that the D has been mounted as an NTFS, 30 gigabytes. Okay, and we can see it's separate from the disk that's hosting the system volume. So this is where we're going to be putting our INET pub. That's the the web root of the IIS server and its working configuration stuff will all be going into this D drive for security reasons. We want to have it separate from the actual system drive. And to do that, we're going to just go over here. And this is a Microsoft knowledge base. It was published. What we're going to be doing is we're going to tells you what's involved in moving all the IIS directories and contents and updating registry keys. But thankfully, we used to have to do this manually since I've had to do this for years manually, and it's only since IIS 7.5 that it's been available that somebody at Microsoft has produced this script, which does it automatically for us. This is a batch script, so we're going to have to just copy and paste this. I'm going to be including the link in the video, so if you have a look at the top right hand corner now, you should see the link there. So you want to just highlight this whole thing from the REM all the way to the success at the bottom here. So you're just going to copy this, and we're going to go back to our server now, and we're going to just make a bat file. So I'm going to show the desktop. Okay, here we go. And we're just going to go and copy and paste that directly in that code that we got from the website. And now this script was originally written for IIS 7 and 7.5, but I've used this on IIS 8 and it does the job pretty well. It actually hasn't got any errors or anything like that. It seems to be perfect. So let's go and just start this. Let's save this, I should say. And we want to go and save it in a bat format. So we just go over here where it says save as type. We're going to select this as all files. We've got it on the desktop, so that's where I want to save it. And I'm just going to go call it IIS .bat. So that's the file extension that we need to be putting in, and that just specifies a batch file, I should say. And here we have it on our desktop. If we just right click this and we go run as administrator. No, sorry, actually that's not how we're going to do it. We actually have to do it from the command prompt, so bear with me a second. Okay, so we're going to have to do a second take on this part of the tutorial, so I've just made a mistake on part of the instructions I was giving you there, so I decided I'd better just edit in this retake that I'm doing right now. Okay, so we needed to go into the command prompt and start the bat file. So that's on the desktop, and we can open up command prompt as administrator by just going into it as in browsing to desktop in Windows Explorer, go into file, open command prompt, and opened as administrator. Okay. Now all we need to do is just type in the file name .bat, and then the drive letter that we need to put it in, which is the D drive, and then it's going to start the process, and we'll catch up once it's done. Okay, it just takes a few moments to do it, and it's stopping and starting. Okay, and it tells us please verify if the move worked. Okay, so we're just going to go and check now just to make sure that that's been moved in there. And that's quite a major change that we've done now. So what we want to do is we want to just back that up so that we don't have to do it again. Here we go. Now the INET pub, the old one's there in the C drive, and if we go to the D drive, yeah, we got a duplicate of it, like that's been moved over here. If you want to have a look and see what was done in this, you can certainly just go and go through it. You'll see that there's a lot of registry keys being changed and stuff like that. But this comes from Microsoft, so this is all good, and it's been used for quite a few years. Nobody's complained with any vulnerabilities that they've had from it, so this looks pretty good. Now let's just check out IIS, make sure that it is functioning as it should do. We will be using the web platform installer a bit later, but let's just have a look and see what we've got going on with the current installation of IIS. Just make sure that it is working as it should do. And just to do that, we just need to go and select manage website and just go browse just to see it's actually serving internal data. Here we go. Yeah, it's up and running, so that's fine. So now what we're going to do is we're just going to shut this down, and we're going to back up the the Windows instance in AWS. So we're going to go back into the EC2 manager in a few moments. Okay, that's just a quick little shutdown command there that will tell the computer to shut down immediately. Okay, so that's shut down now, and if we go back to the management console over here, I don't need this anymore. Okay, let's just refresh this just to see if it's shut down yet. Okay, it stopped. So now I'm going to show you how to back this up. Now we had to wait for this to be stopped before we could do that, because Amazon's best practices say that we should turn off, power off any virtual machines before we actually go and back them up. So now to do the backup, we just go and you make sure it's selected, and you go Actions, go to Image, Create Image, and I'm just going to call it Test Backup. And I'll just do that the same for the description. Now you can back it up with or without the drive. I would suggest definitely back it up with this extra drive in it. Okay, so that's going to take a few moments. To check the progress of this, you just go over here to AMIs, And that's it. So I would suggest from this tutorial onwards, from this video onwards, I should say, at the end of each video, just back up your instance doing this. And then, yeah, so if anything goes wrong, you can go back and just launch a copy of the last instance. Once it's finished backing up, you'll see that you'll be able to select it over here, and you can actually launch it as your own custom AMI, which means that all your configurations and everything from that point in time is still there. And this is all backed up by snapshots. So if you want your AMI to function properly, you need to make sure that these snapshots are actually there. And that's also if you're going to be sharing the AMI with somebody at a later stage. So you might get asked by somebody to create a custom AMI, and this is where you're going to have to make sure that you've actually got everything, because if you don't keep your snapshots, the AMI won't share properly, and you've wasted a lot of money of development if you haven't kept these snapshots. And I'm just going to go and stop the video here, and we're going to carry on with the next video once this is finished backing up.